Shabbat Shalom. I think this week, I guess I want to talk about something personal for me, because it's something that I've been dealing with, and I think it's important for humans to share our experiences, whether good or bad, because you might help the next person. Because a lot of times when we're going through stuff, it's very easy to feel alone. And so hearing that somebody else is going through something similar can make you feel, a sense of, okay, it's not just me. And so today, I'm kind of just going to talk about dealing with loss. And loss can come in a lot of forms, whether it be losing a loved one to them passing away. You could lose your relationship. Natural disasters will have you losing your house. And so there's just anything you feel like you possess, you can lose it. So how do I deal with loss? First of all, on the front end, I do a lot of praying when I do possess it, because I'm always aware that at any moment I could lose it. So that's first of all. So like your house that you're currently living in, you gotta pray over it, because you never know. And it goes the same for your loved ones. You gotta pray over them. And then if the day comes that you lose it, now you don't have any regrets, or as many regrets, because you feel like you treated it better. I think a lot of times dealing with loss is harder when you know you were neglectful anyway. And again, that could be anything. You might have been neglectful towards your house before the fire came. You might have been neglectful in your relationship before it ended. You might have not called and checked on that loved one that passed away, and you had been wanting to. I think a lot of how we feel later starts today. You always got to think about your future self and imagine, what if I did lose this? How would I feel? Okay, so I know it would hurt me. Let me appreciate it while it's here. And so when I lose something, and recently I've lost loved ones, I guess because I was always praying about them being in my life, I'm able to still be grounded with God in that moment and just say, well, thank you for the time. And I think that's why it's important to have a relationship with God when things are going good, so you don't feel like you're talking to a stranger all of a sudden when it gets bad. I think that's a lot of people's tendency, is to run to God when they at their lowest and their worst, and while He wants you to lean on Him in those moments, He will carry you. It would be better that you make Him a part of your celebrations as well. When you're at your heights, when you're having fun, when you're enjoying life, you need to be talking to God and praising Him the same way, calling His line the same way you do when you're sick or you really need something. Because we all hit the man up heavy when we have something we need urgently. I think for me the hardest part about dealing with loss is the change of routine. Because most of the time when you lose something, especially the things I've listed above, whether it be a house, a relationship, a loved one that was close to you, it changes your routine. Because you're used to that thing being there and now it's not. My prayer becomes, God, help me to adjust and to adapt to a new way of living, or a new style of living, I should say. And just new habits, because that's what happens when you lose something. And humans have this amazing ability to adjust to any situation anyway. A lot of times we sit and say what we would never be able to do. You're tougher than you think. You're tougher than you think, especially when put to the test. A lot of times I pray that those challenges don't come my way, but I sit and imagine, what if, if you ever seen that show Naked and Afraid, how them people be out in the wild, and we sit and watch it, we be like, ooh, I couldn't do it. Man, if you was thrown in a situation, whether it be from famine or war, you'd be amazed at what you could do. You'd be amazed at what you learn and how quickly you learn it. I think this generation has, speaking of loss, one of the things we've lost is touch with the earth. A lot of us ain't eating at the ground no more. Our great grandparents, they used to eat at that ground, man. They used to grow their own food and ate it. You got to see it from a seed to your belly. That's something you could trust. You know what I've noticed? And I've been telling people this a lot recently. I've noticed that that generation is living longer than the generation behind them. So basically, I guess what I'm saying is a lot of that generation that was pre-baby boomers, which would be, I guess, born during the Great Depression, so 20s, 30s, 40s, a lot of them made it to the 2000s, whereas a lot of baby boomers are starting to pass away. I noticed that during COVID, they took a large hit. And unfortunately, I'm seeing a similar trend with Generation X behind them. I think there was a statistic that came out that said human life expectancy decreased by a year and a half or something when COVID hit. And for me, it's noticeable. I'm seeing it. And what made me notice it is I'm seeing parents and children dying not far apart. And again, a, it'll be like a parent that's in their 80s or 90s, but then their kid that's in their 60s or 70s died 5 or 6 years before them. And I'm thinking, dang, but y'all were born 20 years apart. And I'm like, to me, that's noticeable. To me, that says that generation is not living as long. And I don't think it, there's probably more factors than just the food, but I always, when it comes to health, I turn to what you put in your body. Got a lot to do with, the output you get. So, when I do these, I just talk about an array of things, but my advice to anybody dealing with a loss right now would be focus on your purpose. And while you may want to sit and soak, and it's okay to mourn, the earth keeps turning. And so I say you need to distract yourself and get back to work. When my grandfather passed recently, I took some days off work, but that first day back, I can honestly say, was the first few hours where I was able to not just sit there and think about, oh, he's gone, for the first time. And I was like, okay, I needed that distraction. I needed to get lost in the work. And eventually you do, because you adjust to the new routine. And whereas you can't stop thinking about it, eventually you go hours, and then half days, weeks, and you adjust. A lot of time my thought is that the person that you lost, they lost people too. And so it's just a part of the cycle of life. And we all have our turn. And because we know that, I think it's so important that you pray right now that your turn comes with peace. Because all losses are not terrible, as a loss is a loss. But similar to sports, there's games where you fought hard and lost a close one, and there's games where you got blew out. And I think life is similar. There's losses where there's losses that sting real hard because of the shock factor. A wildfire coming through the woods all of a sudden and overtaking your whole neighborhood. That's shocking. That's a shocking loss. Compared to what's something that's not as bad. I don't know. Maybe a relationship that you haven't been in long. I don't think that's as bad, in my opinion. It just depends on how you perceive it too. Everything is about perspective. But I'd rather have that house back. in my opinion. And so, pray over all your possessions that you currently have, because you might not always have them. And pray that no matter what comes your way, you're always able to adjust to a new routine, because you're a human. You're a strong creature. You're made in the image of the Creator. And you know, they say where there's a will, there is a way. I think you just gotta have some want to in you. You gotta have the want to in your spirit, and you gotta want to get it done. And so when you lose, you'll know when it's time to move on. And when you want to, you'll be able to do it. Just gotta tell yourself, I'm ready. I hope wherever you are watching this, you're having a blessed weekend. Or if you're watching it later in the week, that too. I want to thank you for watching.